Good evening and welcome to GPA Trading Services Master Trader Program webinar. We're so pleased to see all of our live participants with us this evening, so pleased you could join us. Hope you all are doing well. Now let me introduce myself. I am Trish N. Albrecht. I will serve as your co-host, and more importantly, I am the co-founder of GPA Trading Services. Now, let me tell you a little bit about GPA Trading Services. We are a trading education-based firm, and our area of expertise and forte is creating truly one-of-a-kind custom software. So with that in mind, tonight's objective is going to be to open your mind and broaden your horizons to new trading possibilities. We have some very cool and exciting things to show you, and we're going to have a lot of fun. All right? If you have not had a chance to visit our website, we invite you to do so. And here's a screenshot so you can get familiar with our website, and you can venture over to gpatrading.com and read about what we do and see some pictures, etc. And also, before we begin, I thought since many of you are a new audience for us, I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. This is Gary and I. Gary and I love Maui. It's one of our favorite places on earth, and Hawaii in general. And here we are. We were fortunate enough, we've traveled there many times, and on our last venture there, we were fortunate enough to spend a month on that gorgeous, beautiful island and enjoyed every minute of it. And here we are enjoying one of the many glorious and magnificent sunsets. We love to travel. That's one of our passions, is traveling around and having fun adventures. And the wonderful thing about trading is that you're not locked to a desk, and you can actually get out and see the world and trade at the same time. We are able to conduct classes wherever we are and trade, and so that's a wonderful aspect of being in this business. Also, we would like to introduce you to our family and our GPA trading mascots. These are our glorious girls, Fancy and Felicity Albrecht, in the backyard enjoying their nice patio furniture and relaxing. They have a wonderful life, and they reap the benefits of all of our hard work. And we love to share stories and pictures with our students from around the world, and they've gotten to know and enjoy our girls. So we wanted to introduce you to our family. They're very important to us. Now, on to tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is going to be supercharge your trading results by anticipating future market conditions, utilizing our shining star, the beacon of light, the MPA-PE2 software. On to tonight's mantra. We are firm believers in this statement. Very firm believers in this statement. We stand behind it. So I'm going to share it with you tonight, and then I'm going to repeat it because it's so important. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. And I'm going to repeat that. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. And I think many traders fail at trading because they don't adhere to this important rule. You don't learn to trade by chance. You must study, put forth the effort, and be diligent, and then you'll reap the rewards, because nothing in this life is easy and is given to you on a silver platter or anything worthwhile. You've got to be diligent, study, and then reap the rewards. And that is critically important, and basically in any area of life, but trading in general, because that's what we're here to discuss. Before I turn it over to our guru, Gary, let me give you a little bio on Gary. In Gary's former life, he was a top expert on pharmaceutical and medical education. He's presented to some of the highest rated thought leader physicians in the world and explained super complex medical protocols. Gary then turned this amazing gift of explaining complex ideas and activities to trading education. Gary refers to this as his true calling, which it absolutely is. And he never looked back. Gary has been a professional trader for the past 20 years. He has devoted his time and attention to educating students around the world for over a decade. Gary has conducted numerous live events along with the Platinum membership program, as well as private mentoring to his dedicated students. We have wonderful, loyal, dedicated students that have been with us for many, many years, and we treasure our relationship with our students. Gary is also the creator of truly one-of-a-kind custom software. He has the rare talent of translating his trading methodology into cutting-edge trading software in order to complement any style trader in any financial market, which is a rarity. He is absolutely passionate about providing his students with an unparalleled trading software and trading education. His primary goal is to make sure everyone who uses his system and follows his suggested rules does not fail in trading. So, I'm going to go ahead and go over this disclaimer, and then I'll turn it over to Gary and we'll jump right in. This is a standard disclaimer, which I'm sure you've seen many times, but we must post these because it's very important, and I'm going to highlight some of the key components of the disclaimer. Trading is not suitable for all people. Some markets are leveraged, and therefore it is possible to lose money deposited for a position. A person should only use funds they can afford to lose and that fits within your overall financial plan as developed by a qualified financial planner. Never risk more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. Options traders never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. Always adhere to strict, proper money management, which is absolutely critical. All information in this presentation is for your educational purposes only and should not be taken as investment advice, nor as a recommended or endorsement to buy or sell any specific investment. Trade at your own risk. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gary, and Gary's going to walk you through his portion of the presentation, and then I'll come back on towards the end and discuss and answer questions and whatever else we need to do. Okay? So, now I would like to ask that you please sit back, relax, and enjoy. And here's Gary. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. As my beautiful wife introduced, I'm Gary R. Albrecht, founder and CEO of GPA Trading Services. I'm the mastermind and creator behind the MPAP2 software, and I'm also the educator and instructor. That separates our service apart because I, the true creator of the software, is actually the one that will be instructing on how to use that software. All right, I'm so excited and honored to be presenting to you tonight. And with that in mind, I thought it would be nice just to dispense with a lot of the more traditional intro slides so we can get to the fun stuff, which is learning to properly analyze and trade the markets. I mean, really, what could be better, as I must admit I'm truly dedicated and passionate about teaching and providing traders with a solid education in order to successfully maneuver the markets. I am, however, limited a bit on time, so we will cover just a mere smidgen of the actual wealth of information I impart to my students during each of our live trading classes. In my classes, I like to leave no stone unturned, and I basically cover it all. So let's begin. Key components in anticipating future market conditions. Support and resistance plays a critical role. Knowing the direction of the trend is very, very, very important, and also the strength of the trend. And then, of course, utilizing multiple time frames. This is a critical component that many traders lose sight of, and this will be the difference in knowing how well your trading career is going to run in the long term and how well you're going to do in the short term. Based on the cycling of time frames and utilizing time frame will and always has been the key to successful trading. Understanding how those lower time frames cycle within the larger time frames, or as we passionately refer to as the line of progression, is a critical component to overall successfully trading any market. Part of the process, again, we mentioned was support and resistance. Why is that important? Well, it's important no matter what we're trading, whether it's forex, futures, stocks, commodities. It's imperative we know what area is support, what area is resistance. This software called the MPAP2 automatically calculates those areas of support and resistance. Whether you're trading on a 4-hour time frame, whether you're looking at previous support, previous history of resistance. As I've always said, price has a memory like an elephant. It never forgets. So whether you found an area of resistance yesterday in a chart, 10 days ago, 2 months ago, 10 years ago, however long, doesn't matter. It will remember that area and usually interacts with that area of support and or resistance. We refer to those areas as battle zones, ones that are formerly support, turn to resistance, turn to support. So again, depending on what time frame I'm interested in trading, it's imperative I know what levels of support and resistance and where they're located, not only on one time frame, but how they transcend to all time frames. And you'll notice from time to time, those time frames, support and resistance, will line up, whether they're on a 5-minute chart down to a 4-hour, or a 4-hour to a monthly, a weekly, an annual, etc. Those will line up, and that's when they become the strongest, when those support and resistance levels line up on multiple time frames. So, as we mentioned, it's important, in order to anticipate future market conditions, I need a strong handle on where my support and resistance is. The good news is our software automatically calculates it for you. Now it's imperative that once we know our support and resistance, okay, what direction is the trend? Now that's somewhat of a loaded question, because it depends on what time frame. I might be on a 5, a 15, a 30 minute, depending on the time frame I'm watching, and it may appear the trend is up, but that trend up on that lower time frame might merely be a small correction and an overall downtrend on a higher time frame. So again, it's imperative we know what the direction of the trend is. So this software automatically calculates and which direction the trend is in. We have two primary indicators, the trend momentum and the price action indicator, that all you need to do is align them, and notice, and in this example, both our trend momentum and price action indicator were turning and heading down. You'll learn this concept is very important. And when it's lining and moving up, price moves up. When it's lining and moving down, price moves down. And it repeats itself over and over. When it lines up, moves down, price moves down. When it turns back to the upside, price moves higher. So all we need to do is continue to follow and understand. Based on the time frame, I need to understand what the direction of that trend is at any given moment, and I align those with multiple time frames. So that's the key, simply by watching two simple indicators. Is it pushing lower? Is it pushing higher? And we assess from there. Now, the important aspect, now that we know where support and resistance is, and we know the direction of the trend very quickly, a matter of seconds, I can tell what direction the trend is per time frame by simply looking at the chart. Now I can go into analyzing and aligning those multiple time frames. Well, why is that important? Because whenever you see large moves in any industry, whether it's stocks, commodities, futures, forex, again, it doesn't matter the financial market, it's still the same result. When you start to align those time frames is when you start to see these big moves. Here's oil, as I like to call in class, black gold, Texas tea, the Beverly Hillbillies. This is an area where oil was up in the 100 plus handle, and it dropped all the way down to below into the 42 handle. That's a huge drop in oil prices, and it started with the alignment of a monthly, topping and rolling, headed lower, topping and rolling, headed lower, lined up beautifully with the weekly, topping and rolling, headed lower, topping and rolling, headed lower, and aligned up with the daily, topping and rolling, headed lower, topping and rolling, headed lower. Well, during these long trends on a monthly, it looks like basically I could have entered oil at any time and never had to worry, because the price kept going lower, lower, and lower. Up until most recently, we got a bit of a bounce, but you'll notice price always stair steps, even in the strongest uptrend or the strongest downtrend, and that's evident by seeing it on the lower time frame that we actually had several days of upside movement in this overall downtrend, and that's part of the cycling time frames. Why is that important? Because when I'm in a position, I need to know, based on that position, when is it going to start to go against my position? Do I panic and go, oh, should I be closing this? Or do I let it go knowing it's a simple retracement before a trend continuation? That's where this software really separates. So here's an example on the pound dollar. We're basically taking the support and resistance, critical support and resistance, knowing the direction of the trend, aligning the direction of the trend on multiple time frames, And we summarize all of this information into what we call triggers. So you'll notice, just like oil, we have a multiple time frames setting up. Well, notice this little trigger here. What does that mean? This software looks left and says, okay, lower time frames. What are you doing? Are you moving up? Are you moving down? What direction are you headed? It takes into that calculation what type of trigger it's going to fire. If the lower time frames are in agreement with this down move, it's going to give you a large trigger. And it doesn't stop there. In alignment with that 4 hour, it's going to go on and check to, at some point, this 4 hours is going to reverse and start to move higher. And is this firing and we see a correction before the overall uptrend continues, or is this a major top and reversal? These triggers will designate what type of reversal it is simply by aligning the multiple time frames. So again, you'll notice there's also these yellow triggers. Those are considered take profit triggers. These take profit triggers will blow your mind. As I mentioned, the support and resistance battle zones. They fire as price starts to reach battle zones. They will fire. So if I'm in this trade long, it's going to be telling me I should be peeling off some profits, because not only is my trend momentum and price action about to start to flip, but you're reaching very strong areas of support and resistance, and it calculates those automatically for you. Now, again, understanding how those cycling time frames cycle within the larger time frames, as we refer to the line of progression, this is how I can utilize the software not only to get explicit entries, take profits, but it'll help me to know whether I should be closing a position and reversing the direction, or should I be letting that winning trade run. This ties into the old saying, let your winning trades run. And of course, in an uptrend, you want to buy the dips in an uptrend. In a downtrend, you want to sell the rallies. Well, during that rally, it's going to obviously go against your downward position as it's rallying up, but then you need an opportunity to scale back in as that position would continue further. As they say, sell the rallies in a downtrend. I'm definitely someone that is driven and focused on providing an actual complete, comprehensive trading program. I would not stop until I achieved my goals of creating the pinnacle trading program, thus the birthplace of the Master Trader MPAPE2 Master Trader program. We have truly revolutionized the world of trading, to put it mildly. And one of the key components of the Master Trader program, as my wife mentioned earlier, is the shining star, this MPAPE2 software. The software is highlighted by two crucial components known as triggers and slingshots. So all that information we've covered so far, support and resistance, trend direction, strength of the trend, aligning the time frames, and then understanding the cycling of those time frames, all that is now summarized and simmered down into two things, triggers and slingshots. These triggers and slingshot methodology is quite frankly a trading strategy that has the potential to change your life as a trader forever. It is the wow and the aha moment you have been dreaming of. No hype, simply results. Now, with that said, we only have time to slightly touch on the intriguing trigger slingshot strategy during tonight's presentation. However, we do cover this in great detail in our live trading classes, as well as in our vast members video library. So why is this important? Remember what we just discussed so far, the aligning of the time frame, support and resistance. So here's that oil trade again we reviewed earlier. When it's ready, it gives us a trigger that fires down or a trigger that fires up. And again, it's not just on one time frame. Notice as my weekly was setting up, triggering lower, I also had the daily topping and rolling, both together. It too was triggering lower. And as they were setting up, what happens during this process of this weekly pushing from overbought territory all the way down to oversold? Trend momentum from overbought territory down to oversold territory. And as we'll go over this, many have believed that oscillating indicators will not work in trending markets. That is true. as they cycle, because there are times they can ride down in oversold territory or ride in overbought territory. But when you combine these proprietary software with the second indicator, the price action indicator, we go through this process we call slingshots. And this is part of slingshotting lower and lower trend continuation. So notice what it does. This daily will continue to slingshot lower and lower and lower, over and over and over, repeating itself multiple times while this daily remains pointing down. So again, it continues to repeat. So as I'm actually trading the hard right edge and I'm in this long-term trend, how long do I let it run? Well, you look for signs and symptoms of cycling time frames, and one of those is our slingshot phenomenon that is born in result of cycling time frames. And this process will continue for as long as that weekly stays down. What happens when the weekly starts changing direction? Later you'll see where we try to have a slingshot down and it doesn't make a new low. It gives me a price pattern reversal with a low, a high, and a higher low. That's because now the weekly trend is turning up. And it's simply trend direction times multiple scale in opportunities. So it's nice to know, hey, sell the rally in a downtrend, but when do I sell it? When do I physically sell it? You sell it based on those slingshots engaging. We'll continue. Pound dollar. As of recent, the pound's been on a tear to the upside with this correction. My monthly started to turn toward the upside. My trend momentum is starting to flatten and turn. My monthly starting to turn up. My weekly is clearly turning towards the upside. My daily was bottoming and reversing at the same time. And of course, the 4-hour started with the process of turning and reversing. And as it ultimately went in overbought territory, it does this what phenomenon? The slingshot phenomenon. Because while my daily's pointing higher, the 4-hour will do what? It'll get to overbought territory, depressurize, slingshot higher. This behavior, like we saw in oil, the daily slingshotting lower and lower and lower, the lower time frames exhibit the same potential. So my 4-hour slingshot's higher, the daily's still pointing up. It slingshots higher, the daily's still pointing up. It slingshots higher, the daily's still pointing up, until ultimately, I'm going to show you how when the time frames realign and now we see a shift in direction, we can then start to trade the downside. So we can trade it up, we can trade it down. Here's gold. Gold shows that we have a monthly starting to flatten in oversold territory. We have a weekly that was starting to depressurize toward the upside. We have a daily that started to slingshot higher. And at the same time the daily started to slingshot, we see the 4-hour on this initial down move. Initial down move, as I'm highlighting here, price started to stair step lower. So remember that same phenomenon, it's easy. Whenever my daily is headed in a direction, I can use the 4-hour as my scale in to do these slingshot lower and lower. Then once it reverses, as we're starting to top and roll, my daily starts to change direction once it finishes that move and started to move lower. So I simply just watch the cycles and utilize what we call those triggers and slingshots. Now, how do we automate some of these components? We automate those components for you in what we call the triggers and slingshots, and here's an example of those triggers again. When we have a daily starting to top and roll, my weekly is still clearly moving higher, we would expect, and as many students in our service have already been a part of this trade, when our 4-hour started, my weekly's moving higher, my daily starts the initial move higher, it pulls back, it depressurizes into a slingshot, and then when it's ready to go, we see this phenomenon of a slingshot engaging, and it's derived by a trigger shooting higher. So this one little trade here, we knew in advance, days in advance, as the daily was pushing higher, we knew once it turned over, during that process of turning over, if this weekly says no and stays up, then it's going to slingshot higher. And sure enough, not only did it slingshot higher, that was a trade of well over 400 plus pips to the upside. This process again is simply stating, as my daily turned over, can I trade that initially short? We'll show you yes, but understand that this is short trade is going against a higher trend higher, so that the process means it's going to flip in reverse directions, and we see that through the trigger system. Also, we automate this entire system through what we call the MPAP2 scanner. We have two different scanners. The PE2 scanner looks like this. It gives us everything we need to know at a very high level at a brief overview. So instantly I can see all time frames from the 1 minute all the way down through the monthly. Notice we have on switch here, on and off. So for those of you that may have full-time jobs and are unable to attend live trading classes, I can let the software send alerts to my cell phone, send them to my email, especially with smartphones these days. Send an email, so when I get any type of trigger announcement on a 4-hour, or a triggered announcement perhaps on a daily, or I want to know when a slingshot is engaging on a daily, or a weekly or monthly, I can simply turn the lower time frames off, so that the only alerts I would receive would be the higher time frames.
So everything we do is completely customizable. That's the beauty of what we do.
And everything we do is completely customizable. This is just currency pairs. I can put stocks, I can put the Dow, the S&P, I can put gold, oil, I can put anything I want in here as a customizable feature, and I can have it send alerts to my, again, cell phone, or in this case, the smartphone, and send it in an email. And what else does this do? Not only does it give you customizable time frames and it sends alerts on them, this right here tells me the direction of the trend on that specific time frame. So what does that look like? When you go to the chart and it showed the trend momentum topping and rolling over, headed lower, you'll see it represented by an arrow heading down. And if it's bottoming and reversing up, you'll see it advertised or denoted by a green arrow pointing up or pointing towards the upside, whether it's dark green or light green, depending on where in that cycle and how strong that trend is at that moment in time. So at a glance, I instantly know per time frame what direction the trend is on each time frame. It goes on to then tell me of which time frames are slingshots in the process of forming and or engaging. So notice you'll see in the red spectrum, you see pink where it's a forming slingshot. You see a bolded red when it's engaged. Or in the reverse, you see light green for when it's forming and dark green for when it's engaging. So now at a brief glance, I know the direction of the trend per time frame and which time frames are setting up and or engaging in slingshots. It then goes on to tell me the triggers. Hey, I love to trade the triggers. It's all about triggers and slingshots, and this scanner tells me where my slingshots and triggers are and when is it ready to either go long or go short based on the trigger, and or when is that slingshot ready to be involved in a slingshot down or up. And if that's not enough, we go on to give you your average daily range. That's important in the forex market, stocks, whatever their daily range is. It'll tell you what percentage of that daily range it's already moved at the point in time you're scanning the markets. And then a cool, neat feature is the last one, the trades. So if I have a pair that I have a live trade running, it'll not only give me the information I'm interested in, but it'll tell me, hey, I have a trade long, I have a trade short, based on whatever symbol I have on the scanner, and whatever symbol I'm actually in a live trade, it will denote here by saying trade long, trade short, or no trade. We also have a second scanner, and this scanner is a trader's best friend. It's truly customizable, just like the previous one. It gives us a little bit different information. This goes and scans the market per symbol. The other one, I select which symbol I'm interested in following. This one will scan the market of all symbols, and it'll tell me when my daily time frames are setting up via that trigger long, trigger short, slingshot long, slingshot short, and it tells when that time frame is aligned, then the cycle in which the lower time frames are in as a part of the higher time frame. Why is that important? Because if I'm a day trader, I'm interested in seeing what my daily 4-hour and 1-hour are doing to simply get in, do some short trades. But if I'm a position trader and I'm interested in trading longer time frames, again, you can customize this and change that to a monthly, weekly, daily. Or if I'm doing weekly options, I can do weekly, daily, 4-hour. Weekly options have a quick expiration date, so we need to know the direction of the trend on the week and when the daily's following that trend for several days, and you want to get in exactly when the 4-hour joins that daily, which is in the direction of the weekly, and that would be ideal for weekly options traders. But again, 100% customizable. You can set up here whether it's a daily, 4-hour, 1-hour. Again, I could set it to monthly, weekly, daily. And if I'm a scalper, I could set it to a 15-minute, 5-minute, 1-minute. Or if I want to intraday trade, a 4-hour, a daily, 4-hour, 1-hour, etc. So no matter what my trading style is, I can accommodate by this customizable scanner. Here's the Euro AUD. This was a trade we were in, and we used our customized, the coup de grace here was the trade management system. All of those rules of support and resistance, slingshots, and triggers is all built into this trade management system. So during this trade, in which we made over 1,143 pips on that one trade, and looking at take profits multiple times, it tallied over about 3,000 pips in total. But it allowed us to tell this system when to scale in by buying slingshots. So my trade management system is customizable, where I can tell it, I only want you to buy the slingshots higher in the uptrend, or I only want you to sell the slingshots in the lower trend, or buy triggers up, buy triggers down. So the 4 components, triggers and slingshots, long or short, are built in here, and you have the complete control to tell it when to buy or when not to buy. If you know it's going to keep slingshotting higher based on the higher time frames moving, you just simply tell the scanner, the trade management system, to buy the dips in the uptrend. And it's color coded so that when you're in a long trade, the text is green, and when you're in a short trade, the text is red. And we went on to add this new feature, which is really cool. It is a little mini scanner that tells me when I'm in this trade where potential slingshots are on the horizon, to help me decide when I'm interested in buying or taking profits. And notice as each time we went toward a battle zone, former support, turn resistance, it was listed here, support, when price reached that zone, profit trigger. Support, turn resistance, resistance here, turn support. When price reached that zone, we got another take profit trigger. So all these are built into the system. So again, I could tell it to take profits when the profit triggers fire. I could tell it to only buy the dips in the uptrend. I could tell it to only buy triggers higher, triggers lower. You're in total control. All that's automated. And again, simply buying that uptrend and when do I get in is very concise and simple. I utilize the slingshot phenomenon. Now, what does all that mean? Does this mean anything? It's ultimately down to what sort of trading results can I expect utilizing this system. If you follow the rules, you can expect similar results, but you must follow the rules. The rules are pretty simple, but you must follow them. Here's an example of a gold trade up over $110 on a move that was initiated by the automated trade management system, and it automatically trades and manages that trade for as long as you let it run. You can tell it to take profits along the way. Get to break even +1, take profit 2, and allow take profit 3 to continue to run until there's time for a reversal. Nice trade here, made several $1,000s on a simple allowing the time frames to align and getting our entry based off of that. Here's gold to the downside. Here's a trade of $110 toward the downside. 128 up, 110 down. Same system, same trade management, but now we had triggers that fired and it allowed us to get into the short side of the market. Here's a student that uses TradeStation. He placed his trades in his TradeStation account following this slice of heaven finder, and he tallied up 8,600 pips and counting. Notice it's multiple trades running based on the same entries of triggers and slingshots, and he was utilizing the slice of heaven finder on the higher time frames. so that the same trade went to 18,311 pips. He continued to let them run and ultimately went from that 8,600 to over 18,000 pips. And notice what he says in here. The slice of heaven trades are at or near completion. So he was ready to close those and soon reverse in the opposite direction. Simply following the cycle of time frames, utilizing our slice of heaven finder scanner to call our attention to those trades, and knowing when to allow them to run from 8,600 to over 18,000, and knowing when they're about to totally reverse based on multiple time frames reversing, and when to get out. Here it is in his trade station, that same 18,311. Same trades, just they have, if you add up all these totals, total over 18,311 pips, and I was simply utilizing the slice of heaven finder to call his attention to these trades, and then watching the cycles of time frames continue to move in the direction of the higher time frame, allowing those winning trades to continue to run. Here's gold again, back to the upside, just showing you that it does impact as far as financially and easily following this trade management system and those rules. Support and resistance calculated. It allows us to look at the movement and allows me to buy dips in an uptrend or take profits as it's moving higher and peel off profits. As you can see over here to the right, we did peel off profits and let the last lot run upwards of $100+ move. And here's the one to the downside on the pound dollar, up over 400 pips, simply utilizing the slice of heaven finder to initiate the, hey, watch the pound. We got multiple time frames aligning, then utilizing the triggers and slingshot phenomenon of when to get in these trades and allow them to run during that long-term downtrend. And of course, we didn't really highlight these. This is multiple trades that tallied well into the 30,000 range, $28,000, simply by letting some trades run and continuing to utilize the same software. Now, many out there that trade options feel, well, all I need to do is an iron condor or all these different option strategies. I don't need software to tell me that. Well, isn't all your trading strategies and option strategies based on what the underlying stock price is going to do? If it's going to move up, do I buy calls? If it's going to move down, is it going to be range bound? Nothing out there will give you better insight than the software, whether a stock is going to move higher, lower, stay in a range bound, and that's simply by aligning the time frames. If I have some time frames up, some down, and they ultimately just going to chop and grind and stay range bound. But if they're all aligning, we look for a big move higher, they're all aligning to the downside, a big move lower. Here's one of our students that basically says it all. That he had a short position, he made $1,200, then re-entered later that day and made another $300 using options. But if he had done this on his own without the software, he'd have bailed on that position a long time ago for a loss. So he pocketed $1,200, additional $300, where without the software and trading options, he'd have bailed for an absolute loss. So he's looking to make profits. Well, he obviously did. And if black gold continues, I will be able to pay for my subscription very quickly. Why is this important? This individual started with a trial. Before the trial was over, he went to an annual, paid for an annual subscription on a couple of these trades. And then he went on to do private mentoring, all based on a few trades he made, simply utilizing this software. And he's an option trader. Thanks for all the hard work in developing the system. Price proves its intentions, and my ability to use the system keeps improving. He's going to drop his financial advisor in several newsletters. He went on to apply for a forex account and added that to his thinkorswim accounts. And he's very excited because now the software can tell him to tell his broker in Australia and Switzerland, hey, when should I be buying and selling these investments based on the cycle of those time frames?
He's telling them what to do.
He's telling them what to do. How cool is that? Talk about confidence. Now let's go to the charts to see the MPAP2 software in action. Please give me a yes, yes, and a yes once I open up the chart and I can verify you actually see my charts before I move on. All right, everybody can see the chart. It's a euro-dollar chart. Here's a trade, Nathan, that we placed based on a what? A trigger. How do we trade the system? Triggers and slingshots. And as of late, this trade is up over 300 pips. It's still running to the downside. My daily's starting to trigger, but the euro still has further downside to go before I think it's going to reverse and go higher. So we need to align the time frames and see how things are progressing. So we simply, in the midst of this uptrend, we talked about this in our class, and we were riding the euro up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pips until we got a trigger down on the lower time frame here, knowing that my monthly was still up, my weekly was up, my daily was up. That caused the euro to run hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pips from its previous bottom of 104.63, I believe was the bottom, and it went up over 700 plus pips from that bottom reversal. But it shows you I can simply trade long or short based on triggering phenomenon and the time frames lining up, setting up. Well, what does this trigger mean for me? It is live being monitored right now. So this trigger means that not only was my 4-hour ready for a downtrend, but the large trigger means my daily is also ready for a downtrend. Right? My daily was flipped directions. It was moving up. Now it's moving down. It's still moving down at the moment. PAI, trend momentum down. So my 4-hour, and the reason I haven't closed this trade, yes, I took profits and profits. You see, take profit 1, take profit 2. Over 320 plus pips so far. An additional 314 still out there that I could close right now or let it continue to run up and until the daily switches directions. So that's what I'm waiting for. If I see this daily slingshot engage back up like it did here, I'm going to close the short trade and go back long and look for the euro to go higher. As we ultimately can see, the euro is projected, as I mentioned, to a little more further downside until that daily finishes. Go to the euro here. Till that daily finishes that down cycle and joins this weekly, which is currently in an up cycle. And my monthly, as I mentioned a moment ago, is in the process of turning towards the upside. So I do expect the euro has further upside in the future, but we're trading it to the downside now. So I understand this is simply buy the dip in an uptrend, but as long as my daily cycling down, I trade short. Then when the daily cycles up, I trade long. And if I'm in a long-term trend, monthly, weekly, etc., together, then I can decide to let my winning trades continue to run in slingshot phenomenon all the way down, or in this case, simply follow by a daily setting up, ready to move lower, topping and rolling, topping and rolling. My 4-hour gave us that position trigger by simply setting up, triggering, and telling me when to go short. And that is 300 plus pips. If I close it right now, that would be well over 600, about 40, 650 pips on one trade that I got this week. Those of you that trade forex, if I have one standard lot on that, that 600 plus pips is a $6,000 victory. And that alone would pay for an annual plus some private mentoring by simply doing one trade that was for a week, following the system and allowing it to set up and trade following the directions. And we have very simple rules. You align the time frames together and then you trade. If they're not aligned, you don't trade. And it's simple. It tells you when they're aligned by triggering. And I must understand when I do get a trigger, is this triggering down against the higher trend or is it triggering with the trend? In the case of that 4-hour, when it triggered, it was triggering with the daily. So therefore, I can expect this to make a much larger move. When this 4-hour triggered over here, back when it was here in lifetime, the 4-hour trigger down made nice pips, but then what did it do? It reversed right back here in an uptrend because the daily was still pushing higher. So the 4-hour slingshotted higher and higher and higher and higher all the time my daily was pointing up. Now my daily's pointing down, so what do? We trade, follow the downside until this down move is over. My daily switches directions, and then we go back long, taking profits in both directions. So again, I don't care if you want to trade stocks, futures, commodities, Microsoft, any stock that's available, you can certainly do the same. How did we know Microsoft was going to trigger and go higher? Because guess what we had? We had a monthly slingshot to the upside. How cool is that? So how did I know at this point to buy a quick option and know that Microsoft was about to soar towards the upside? Well, my monthly was turning over, forming that slingshot. It turned and hooked to engage, and what happened? We got a trigger on the weekly telling me, yep, it's time to go. So not only when this triggered on the weekly, but notice the time frames in alignment. Monthly slingshot up, weekly bottoming, reversing, daily from the swing point low, bottoming, reversing, triggering higher, on and on and on. See how the time frames align, and they tell you when it's time to go long, when to look for a correction, and when is it time to finish that up move. Well, currently the weekly is getting toward overbought territory. So this would tell me I need to start taking profits off the table. Yes, my monthly is still engaging up, but what happens when it finishes engaging and turns back down? We're left with a trend momentum headed down. So look for Microsoft to start to step sideways to lower again, but it doesn't matter. I can trade long, I can trade short, but it tells me when I can expect big moves and when I expect trends to change and intraday trade trends to change based on the cycling time frames. Goldman Sachs. Why is Goldman Sachs breaking new highs? What happened to Goldman Sachs? Well, yeah, I did get a slingshot on the daily. I did get a slingshot on the weekly. And I did get a slingshot here on the monthly. There and here. So I can watch Goldman Sachs and just watch as my monthly, weekly, daily was moving up. Turns over, slingshots higher. Turns over, slingshots higher. Turns over, slingshots higher. And it's right there in front of you. And as the time frame cycle, why does the monthly turn and engage back up? Because the weekly during these periods are cycling as well. Cycling, turning, cycling, slingshotting. How cool is that? It's very simple. All I got to do is align the time frames, wait for my triggers to follow. And once they follow, I look to say, okay, am I triggering with the current or against the current? And that's the bigger time frame. If my current or higher time frame is up, when I get something moving lower, that means I'm going to be short-lived, very quick in and out, because you expect price to reverse in the upwards direction. And this is evident right here of this weekly slingshotting higher and higher and higher for weeks and weeks and weeks, while what? My monthly was moving from oversold towards overbought. And once it made it to overbought territory, turns over, it too started to slingshot. And if you'll slice this down into pieces, right? This weekly here that started to engage up was the result of what? My daily reversing, going from a down move to an up move. And as it starts to reverse from this swing point low over here, reverses, it then, once it finally makes it in overbought territory. So we have a thing in this, well, it's tried the slingshot, made a low, a high, a higher low. And then another lower high, higher low. And then it did it again. So it failed to make new lows. Well, this behavior is anticipated in advance because the whole time this is happening, my weekly's turning up. So if I'm in a long position, I know I need to be taking profits because price is going to come down, not to new lows, but to fail. And when it does fail, I can enter long. And then ultimately, once my daily makes it to overbought territory, it's going to do what? Slingshot higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. All the time, that weekly is pointing in the upwards direction. That is how simple it is. So we call signs and symptoms of cycling time frame. We automated all of these rules into the software of triggers and slingshots. We went on from there to include it into a trade management system, which again includes all of this information. So all I need to do when I look at my expert advisor, again, is simply go to properties, and I can tell it all the information I want, how many lots I want to trade, where I want to put a stop loss, where I want to take profits, and then most importantly, do I want to trade my slingshot up, slingshot short, trade trigger up, trade trigger down, and I simply tell it by saying true or false. That's it. Completely customizable. So it will fit. If you're a scalper, you can set it to the lower time frames to cycle. If you're a day trader, set it to the intermediate time frame. And if you're a long-term trader, set it to the higher time frames. And you tell it whether to take triggers long or short, or a slingshot up or down. And that's how price moves. So again, oscillating indicators don't work in trending markets. That's why you use the MPA-PE2. Between the trend momentum and the price action, the slingshot phenomenon, that's what allows me not only to sell the rallies in a downtrend, but exactly when to sell those rallies and when to take profits during those rallies. So, based on just a small introduction, remember I showed you the Slice Heaven Finder too. It's completely customizable, so I can tell it, as I showed you earlier, it was a daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. I can customize this and say, you know, I'm more of a position trader. I want a longer term trend. Here's where it's scanning the markets, waiting for the next price tick, but here's a bunch of weeklies that's setting up in stocks. There's the S&P. There's many things in here, different stocks here, commodities, futures, forex, WBC Australia. There's a lot of things in here that we can utilize and let it scan the markets to tell me, hey, you need to pay attention to ADP. And notice it's now starting to scan over and starting to process over. It automatically scans on the hour, every hour, to give you the freshest of information. Well, if I don't want to do weekly, daily, 4 hour, how difficult is it to change it and customize it? And as we can see, the STX has a nice slingshot engaging down on a weekly. My daily is starting to position and move lower, potentially forming a slingshot back up. So it tells me the cycles of these time frames. And how difficult is it? I simply go to my properties table and I say, instead of being a weekly, I want to do a shorter term and do a 4 hour. So I want to look and do an intraday quick trade, get in and get out on a stock or a forex. Then I can simply say OK, and it'll take a second. It's going to update, and then it's going to tick, and now it'll say 4 hour, 1 hour 30. So now it's going to scan all of these entities to tell me when my 4 hour is setting up for either a move up or down, and how the 1 hour and 30 are cycling within that 4 hour time frame. How cool is that? So let's go on and continue with our presentation. So as we go back to the slideshow, we briefly touched on some of the components. Well, I promise you, you've never seen anything like this. The tools to utilize, and the best part is, no matter what you're trading, the same rules apply. The triggers and slingshots, and the multiple time frame setups, all of that is identical whether I'm trading stocks, futures, forex, commodities, and it doesn't matter. So everything I learn will help me to trade any symbol within the market watch of the platform. What exactly is the Master Trader program? It consists of the Shining Star, the MPA-PE2 software. We just showed you several components, the charts, we showed you the trade management system, the scanners. There are other components we didn't have a chance to review tonight, but we still have access, and we have so much information you'll be in shock and awe and truly appreciate the depth and breadth of what you have access to. And again, it's based on simple rules that you follow no matter which portion of this software you use. We offer live trading classes, and we offer an MPA trade alerts that I send out based on the software setting up. Well, not only the ones I send out, but again, the software you can set up to send you alerts when you get a trigger lower, trigger higher, a slingshot engaging, whatever your criteria is, you can have the software automatically send you the alert. And someone asks, how many stock trade alert? If I set up the scanner with stocks, whatever stocks I want to trade, and whenever the software sets up my criteria, I could get upwards of 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 alerts a day. Depends how I set that criteria. On what time frame do I want to be alerted? If I'm alerting a weekly or monthly setups, then you're not going to get 15, 20 trade alerts in a day. But you know how stock prices move. They tend to cycle with one another. When Dow and S&P are up, stocks tend to trade up, not always, but generally. And when the S&P Dow go down, stocks tend to go down with them. So you'll get opportunities where multiple setups might be on weekly and monthlies, and you'll get hundreds to choose from at that moment in time. But it's not necessary to trade 1,000 every stock out there. You simply trade the ones that are in setup mode, looking for the next biggest trade. So let's again review the software. It includes the scanner. We briefly showed you that. It includes the slice of heaven finder, which we went through and explained that. It includes the powerful slingshot trade triggers, which is king. It includes the trade management system, which takes into consideration all of that information that you need to know as a trader: support and resistance, direction of the trend, strength of the trend, slingshots and triggers. It's customizable to tell it to buy the dips in an uptrend, sell the rallies in a downtrend. Coup de grace. And it's twofold. I can set it to trade instantly. If I'm at the chart and I see a setup, I can click and drag and say sell it now, buy it now. Or I can set it in advance to tell it, oh, based on my cycles, I'm going to look to buy a daily slingshot higher. So whether it takes a day or two or three or four, when it finally engages up, it will enter that trade 2, 3, 4 days later, as long as I set it up. And then, of course, we did not review, which is a great find and a continuation of the same purpose of aligning time frames, is the Platinum Asia scalping system.
These are some new components.
This is some brand new components that are set up for scalping the Asia system during that time frame. And of course, we have another one, yet another new one called the MPA Triple P scalping system.
Both are great.
Both are great. This one is scalable in the sense that I can use it for scalping, or I can use it for longer term trades as well. And it's very easy to use, easy to learn, easy to follow. Both of these will absolutely change your perspective of why software is important. Now, in honor of our dear friend David Letterman that retired, last night was his last show, the top 10 reasons to trade with the MPA-P2 software. Number 1, it calculates support and resistance levels automatically. Number 2, it identifies the trend of each time frame, whether up, down, or sideways. Number 3, it monitors and tracks those time frame cycles. Imperative, provides consistent entries, exits, and take profit levels based on the trade triggers, the slingshots, and the profit triggers. Here's where I was talking about. Trade management system, I can set in advance to buy the dips in an uptrend, sell the rallies in a downtrend. Whether it takes a few days or whatever to set up, it'll hold its position until its entry criteria is met, then it'll enter it. Or I can instantaneously, from the trade markets, enter a trade as I see fit, buy now, sell now, and it'll manage the trade from entry to exit. It fits any trading style. Whether you're a scalper, day trader, position trader, I don't care your type of trading, it fits your style. The dual scanners are scanning the markets for the next big trade. All of these big trades are based on the scanners and then the software setups we're reviewing. It works on 800 symbols, including stocks, forex, futures, ETFs, commodities. It has T-bills in there. It has a numerous opportunities, something for everyone. And it consistently delivers low risk. And number 10, it consistently delivers low risk, high reward, high probability trades on a consistent and never-ending basis. Consistently delivers. What more could you ask for? So, in order to subscribe and try this, we're going to offer a special trial so that you can get in the door and try this Masterful Trader program. Again, what is the Master Trader program? It's the software, all components. It's the live trading classes, and it's the trade alerts that I personally send out. And class alone, we give you multiple trade alerts telling exactly what to look for and what the software is going to do. And when it does it, you simply trade it accordingly. So it has numerous alerts that go out based on class time. And the good news is, whether I can attend that live class during the time in which it's ongoing, or I view it in archives, based on the cycling time frames, we'll give you a trade alert saying, look, over the next 2 to 3, 4 days, we're waiting for a daily slingshot. So whether it engages on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, watch as the time frames finish the cycle, and when this happens, take that entry long. Well, if I'm not at my computer, I can tell the trade management system to take it for me. And if I am at my computer and I trade frequently, then I can manually trade the actual trade on my own. And what is the offer? $97 for the software, the classes, and the alerts.
For the trial, special trial
This is the special trial offer. And how do I access this special? It's right here, www.gpatrading.com/GPA trial. And I'm going to post the link for you in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my wife, and she will come back on and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, guys, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. As you can see, we have spent an inordinate amount of time and resources in developing this truly one-of-a-kind custom software. I don't think you've ever seen anything quite like this. And what's amazing about it is each component is a wonderful standalone on its own, worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But we believe in providing great value to our students and members, and so we have put it all together in the pinnacle of what you would call a pinnacle trading program. And this trial is unbelievable. To have access to all of this is actually priceless, and have this trial offer is unbelievable. But we like to offer things to new students and let you get in the door and try things out and see what we're all about. Gary and I like to have a lot of fun. We're very serious, but we also like to have a lot of fun. We're very engaging, and we have a great group of students from around the world who've been with us for years, and so we have a lot of fun, and we cover a lot of ground in our classes. Love to be in class with our students. But if you can't join us live, we have lots of students that are unable to join us live, and so they follow along in the class archives, and that works out just beautifully. Okay, Patrick. Nathan, Gary's going to answer that question. I'll turn it back over to Gary and let him answer that. I'll turn that back over. But Patrick, just keep the link, and since you were here tonight, you can start on Wednesday. That'll be okay. Yes, the software works on MT4, so you'll be good to go. Okay. MT4 is a free data feed, as you know, Patrick. So yes, you're good. You'll be good to go. And we have the links within the members area. Once you join, you'll have the links within the members area to download the software. No, it does not work on TradeStation. It works on MetaTrader 4. You can use the software. You can place trades in any live broker account you want, as we showed you with one of our students who actually does use TradeStation to place live trades. So you can place your trades in any broker you choose, but the software runs on MetaTrader 4. Bluesjack, you have access to the classes in your members area, and we'll pull that up. You just click on class
So those of you that join
schedule. So those of you that join, people that are joining now, you'll get an email, an automated email. So if you don't find it within your inbox immediately upon joining, check your spam or junk folder, because some ISP providers will send automated emails to a spam and junk folder. So if you don't find it within your inbox immediately, check your spam and junk folder. But immediately upon joining us, you're sent a username and password. You'll go to the members area, and you'll go to the website, then you'll go to the members area and you'll log in. Okay? And then within your membership information page, you will have everything that you need. We have everything. Some wonderful and valuable information available for you within your members area. How-to videos, educational modules, class archives, go back for years. You can study and review any class archive, and then the class schedule is posted in there, so you click on that and then you join us. David, after the $97 trial special, we go to a very reasonable price of $3.99 for everything, which is unheard of in the trading world. To have software, access to this type of software, live class instruction 3 days a week, and then trade alerts for $3.99 is unbelievable. So you will be, yes, $3.99 per month. That is absolutely correct, and that is an unbelievable offer. Now we're showing you Bluesjack. See where it says class schedule? right there. That's how you get to class right there. You click on all those everything listed in there is hyperlinked. So you just click on that, and you were sent a welcome. You'll also receive a welcome letter. Blues Jack, you were sent a welcome letter, and then within the welcome letter, it goes over everything that you need to know of how to get up and running.
So if you want to go to archive,
so
click on archive.
But everything you see on that page is all hyperlinked. Ladane, our website is www.gpatrading.com. I'll type that in. Okay. There you go.
Yes.
Yes, we have customer support, but you shouldn't have any trouble. We have students from around the world that have been with us for years, and they have been able to do everything just perfectly fine. And so you shouldn't have any problems, but you know, we definitely have customer support.
And here's today's class that's already posted.
See, here's today's class right there. You just click on that link, and then it takes you straight to the class. All classes are promptly archived for your viewing pleasure, and you have the capability to, which is nice, you have the capability to fast forward, rewind, pause, and you can maximize and go to full screen. So we've made it all so easy for you. So if you hear something and you go, oh wow, I need to write that down, that's so important, you just pause it, write it down, or if you need to fast forward and say, oh, I need to hear that again, you just click the rewind or fast forward or pause, whatever you need to do to make it easy for you to follow along, and it's great. And some of you that say, oh, I can't attend live, what's going to happen if I can't attend live? We have students from around the world that have never been in a live class because it's just not something that they are able to participate in live, so they just follow strictly along with the class archives, and they've been doing beautifully with that for many, many years. So you're not going to miss out on anything because everything we cover is strictly in that class, and so you don't miss anything. That's the beauty of it. That's wonderful to have everything you need, and then you can go over it as many times as you need. That's another wonderful thing. You're not limited in how many times you can go over things. You can go over as many times as you want. And see, there are the links to download the platforms. There's the 2 links for the 2 different platforms for the demo accounts. And then once you install MetaTrader, you'll install the software, and then you'll be up and running. And Patrick, the system is up, however fast you can pick it up is up to the individual. We can't give you a time frame. It's up to you. But everything you need to get up and running is right there at your fingertips. But everybody's learning curve is different, so we can't speak to that. We don't know you particularly, but we will say that everything you need to get up and running is available, and you can you can study it as often as necessary to get up and running quickly. So that's not a problem. It's just up to you as an individual to take the ball and run with it, because the ball is a big, beautiful golden ball, and all you got to do is pick up and run with it. Okay? I'll go ahead and turn it over to Gary. But thank you all so much. We were so pleased you guys were able to join us. And for those of you that have joined us, we welcome you, and we're thrilled. I see people joining us as we speak, so welcome aboard. Love to have new members. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Gary. Thank you so much.
Okay, someone asked how large are the stop losses. That's the beauty of the cycling time frames. So allow me to go back to the charts real quick. And I'll pull this up. 1 second. So how large are stop losses when we're utilizing the software? That's where the cycling time frames come in. And we utilize our support and resistance levels. So we'll go to the euro dollar, for example. And if I want to utilize a higher time frame trigger, and instead of just saying I'm going to trade the daily long, I'm going to trade the daily short, we can utilize when the 4 hour starts to turn and roll with the daily. And obviously in this case we can get in these daily time frame entries with as little as 25 pip stop loss. It's going to depend on how the cycling time frames are hitting. So think about it in terms of cycling time frames. You ever thought when I enter a trade, as soon as I enter, say, long, the market seems to go against me? Or when I enter a trade short, the market seems to go up? Well, if I utilize the rules that we follow in lining the lower time frames before I enter a trade, then the drawdown against my entry is much lower than if I ignore these lower time frames and I just strictly try to take a daily time frame. So for example, on a daily perspective, my stop loss might range from 30 to 50 pips. Well, if I don't want to wait, or my stop loss is too large, depends where I take it. So I'm not going to go into deep conversation about this, but it's limited. That's the whole point of utilizing multiple time frames. So if I'm worried about, well, my daily moved 100 points or 100 pips today, and I know if I enter now at the end of the day, I have to take on 100 plus pip stop loss. No, you allow the lower time frames to finish that cycle against the trend. Then when they turn back over with the daily, we can then utilize a much tighter stop loss. So for example, when we have a daily pointing lower, we develop these triggers to shoot at the end of the day. Then I went back with the program and said, that's not good enough. Because on a daily candle, a case of a euro or any stock commodity, it can move several dollars by the time the end of the day is already in there. I want to know when the daily is ready first off. So these triggers will fire intraday. It won't wait till the end of the day to fire and say, okay, we're now aligned. It can fire 1 hour into the daily, 4 hours, 10 hours into that daily 24-hour candle, right? So that's part of the system, that it's monitoring the cycling time frame. And as the daily sets up, it won't wait until the end of the day to fire. It fires intraday. So back to your stop loss question. All I simply need to do is allow the lower time frame. So part of this uptrend, we have buy and sell cycles on lower time frames while the 4 hours moving higher. Right? I can see this from just simply slicing and dicing of 4 hours that's starting to bottom over here. And during this 4 hour moving from oversold back towards overbought, and why would it slingshot higher and higher? Because this whole time my daily is pointing up. So the euro would be climbing higher, slingshotting. But if I catch it during this phase, do I need to come all the way down here for the stop loss? No. When a slingshot engages, that means I've found support. Slingshot engages up, I've found support. When a slingshot engages down, I've found resistance. So as I'm looking for an entry based on perhaps a daily trigger or a 4 hour trigger or a 1 hour trigger, I simply look for the lower time frame. If my lower time frame cycled against it, then slingshots back up. Now instead of going between the swing point low here, I can take the swing point low there and get in as little as 5 to 10 pips. So there are times I can get in very low pips for a stop loss. It depends several things. What am I trying to accomplish? What time frame am I expecting this move? If I'm simply just scalping, then when the baby time frames, the lowest of time frames set up, I'm in with very little drawdown. So again, if you ever feel like when I enter a trade, it always goes down, or I enter long, it goes down, or I enter short, it goes up, that's because you're missing the lower time frame cycling. And if I enter short or I enter long at a particular time, when my daily might have a trigger long, but by the time I catch it, my 4 hour is already moving lower, then I simply need to allow the 4 hour to do its cycle finish, and when it goes back to the buy cycle, I enter with a much tighter stop loss here than way down there. So hopefully that answers your question. We believe in minimal stop losses. I'm not one that'll say, oh, just take a 600 pip stop loss and look, you would have made 10,000 pips. Well, we'll be able to scale in that position multiple times, making that 10,000 pips, but you don't have to take on outrageously large stop losses. And that's simply by allowing the time frame to finish a cycle. So in closing on that strategy, if I want a tight stop loss, I need to allow the lower time frames to finish their cycle to join the direction of the trade I want to enter. And when they do join, that's when I can get in with a very tight stop loss. Fair enough? But generally speaking, if I want to use a daily and a daily trigger fired, it should go below the swing point high or swing point low. If at that point in time I'm on a daily and I said it's too late to enter or it's too big of a stop loss, then I'll let the lower time frames finish the cycle against the move higher, cycle down, then when it cycles and triggers back up, I enter there, and I don't need my stop loss way down here. I put it much tighter during the reversal. And how do I know? Based on engaging slingshot, that means I've found support. Right there. So instead of trying to get in way down here waiting, I can allow it to come closer, finish the cycle, engage, and get in with a very tight stop loss. The other question.
I've covered everybody.
You've covered it already? In full-time job, I simply set my trade management system, my slice of heaven finder, and my scanner to the higher time frame. So if I'm working all day and I certainly want to trade, then I want to know when the bigger time frames are setting up. So again, I could change this back to the weekly, monthly, etc. So I know the big time frames are setting up. That would allow me at the end of the day to place trades. And I simply know when my weekly's higher, monthly's higher, I wait for my daily either to engage in a slingshot higher or trigger higher, and that's my entry. So if I miss it early, I wait for the cycle. And I'll show you this one last thing that's really cool, part of the process, and it allows for that same scenario. And again, the scalping technique we talked about is for Asia. So if I work during the day but I'm free during Asia session, I can use the MPA Platinum Asia scalping system to make profits. And I can also use the, I believe it's this one, Triple P scalping system. So why is this important? All I need to do with this, if I want to scalp, I need to allow my 4-hour to commit to a direction. Trend momentum PAI in one direction, and I want to scalp this. And I'm watching the chart. So I go to a 15, and during that 15 cycle, notice what it does between that 4-hour cycle up and down. I got to scroll way back to catch it, but my 15 from the top of that 4-hour cycle to the bottom, so I'm going to go back to the 4-hour, show you exactly what I'm showing you. From the top of the 4-hour cycle, let me pull this over this way, from the top of that cycle to the bottom of that cycle, 4 hours simply cycling from overbought to oversold, and when it finally goes from overbought to oversold, I can catch my 4-hour headed lower, PAI trend momentum headed lower. My 15 then will cycle with and against that movement. So again, I'm going to turn that off and scroll back to show you. Here's the end of that 4-hour cycle. Here's the beginning of the cycle way over here. So if I catch it early, I can enter short based on my 15. Then if I catch it late, well, if I catch it way over here, look, it went back here and it made a lower high. So do I need to put my stop loss up here? No, as a scalper, I can allow my cycle to then cycle back to overbought territory, turn green. When it turns back red, scalp. Close, wait for the cycle, scalp. Close, take cycle, scalp. Close, wait for the cycle, scalp. And all this is doing with this simple process is intraday, you're talking about intraday trading, all I got to do is find a 4-hour that's topping and rolling together or bottoming and reversing together. Once I have that and I have the commitment on the PAI trend momentum, I then go to my 15 and say, okay, I'm going to trade you over and over and over during that cycle. And in the midst of that cycle, I'm going to buy, in this case sell, with the 4-hour moving lower. And then when it switches directions, it's color coded for you. So when it switches, I just wait till it finishes, give me a new cycle down. I go, wait, sell, wait, sell, wait, sell, and continue the process. And notice, what's this process of changing, waiting? It's that slingshot phenomenon. So take the color code out, and it's still the same principle. When a 4-hour moves lower, my 15, 30, and lower time frames are going to continue to cycle with, against, with, against, with, against, with, against. And during the against, we're looking for a slingshot phenomenon. And when it starts to engage, lo and behold, it changes back color. How cool is that? So this is where you can trade with very tight stop losses. So when I see the switch and the change, wherever the change occurs, I go to the swing point high, and you're talking a handful of pips on a scalping technique. So that's why when I mentioned it does make a difference what time frame and what I'm trying to accomplish, but we don't believe in huge stop losses. That's foolish, because a huge stop loss is just laziness, waiting for the cycle to finish a buy cycle to go back to a sell cycle to join the downward trend you want to sell in, or an upward trend, I wait for the lower time frames to cycle down against that uptrend. When they reverse back with the uptrend, I then take it long with a much smaller stop loss. So any other questions before we call it an evening? I promise you, for $97, you've never seen anything like it. Everything you need,
for any amount of money.
and then even after the first month, $3.99. I know services out there that charge more than $3.99 for trade alerts. Services that charge more than $3.99 for classes. Services that charge way more than that for software, and nobody has what we have as far as software. And as I mentioned, our students that have been with us have been with us for 5, 6 years and counting. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be here for 5 and 6 years. And I guarantee all you got to do is follow my instruction. When we do in class, we paint the picture of what the trend momentum is doing, what the PAI is doing, and we expect signs and symptoms to unfold. That is, you will know this in the first day or two of studying. You just need to get used to the terminology. And yes, it'll take a minute or two, but it's very simple rules. They never change. They're always the same. I don't trade without alignment of the 4-hour, 1-hour, 30, and 15. Well, what if I only want to scalp? Well, you should be scalping in the direction of the 4-hour, 1-hour, 30, and 15, because as I just showed you, you can go scalp, take profits, close it, wait for the cycle, scalp, take profits, wait for the cycle, scalp, take profits, wait for the cycle, repeat, rinse and repeat, over and over and over, and you can scalp yourself to death. Or you can allow the bigger time frames to set up and get in a position like the euro and some of these and let them run 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1,000 and more pips. So again, once you join, you log into your members area, you'll have a MT4 demo account download here or here, and then once that's installed, I simply install the auto installing software, click on it, it installs it in every copy of MetaTrader on your platform. If I have 4 copies, it'll install in all of them. If I only want one of them installed, you tell the installer, hey, only install it in one of them. It's all very intuitive and very simple and easy to follow. It's the easiest thing you'll ever see in your life. Simply all the stress is over, is all you need to do is wait for the time frames to cycle. Once they cycle, you're in, you take profits, you get out. If the longer time frames are still in agreement, then you sell the rallies in the downtrend and buy the dips in the uptrend. And again, we didn't get into all this in great depth, but on the different platforms, you go to your Market Watch, and this JFD one we offer is a demo account, has over 800 symbols. Right? Stocks, commodities, futures, forex, T-bills, you name it, it's all in here. More than enough for anyone to have ample opportunities to trade. And again, no, it doesn't run in every platform under the sun, but I've been trading this system for well over 10 plus years, and I didn't have this cool stuff 10 years ago. So when I would get a sell, remember, if I get a sell in broker A and the euro goes down that day, then in broker A, B, C, D, and there are hundreds of brokers, the euro's going down in all of them. So it doesn't matter that I don't have this software running in my TradeStation account. If the euro gives me a trigger to go short, the euro goes down, I'm going to make money in any platform. Okay? So that should give you more than ample opportunity for trading, whether you have all day to trade, you have only a few hours to trade, you'll learn the process. And by these cycling time frames, not only do we get triggers and things to tell us when to go, but we get everything we need at our fingertips day in and day out, and I can anticipate in advance what the behavior is supposed to be simply by looking at the direction of the trend on the higher time frames. Fair enough? So if there's no other questions, again, you simply just go to the members area. Everything you need is there at your beck and call. And the class schedule's here. You click on that. It tells you what day the classes meet, what time. There's a link to enter and a password. The archives, platforms to download, software to install, how-to videos, educational modules. And we even give you a trade size calculator. Whatever your balance of your account is, you enter what the number of pips are going to be, and it'll tell you how many lots you should be trading. Whether you're using mini lots, micro lots, standard lots, and it'll calculate all that information utilizing our money management rule of 2%. So anything else before we go, I'll gladly answer it. But I promise you, you've never seen anything like this anywhere, and it's extremely simple to learn and understand because it's based on one criteria and it never changes. Support and resistance, trend direction and strength, and how the time frames cycle. And as they cycle, they demonstrate and exhibit very specific behavior. And what is that behavior? We briefly touched on. When the trend is up, the lower time frames, as they finish that up cycle, will start to slingshot lower and lower and lower, while the higher time frames continue to push lower. And we have multiple methods, whatever you like, simply by going up to the templates folder, and there are numerous templates in which to use with the trade management system, without, with the software, with Platinum Asia scalping, power play. Everything is here for your ease and convenience, and I simply follow the rules. And one last time, the rules never change. So in closing, I'll review the S&P for those of you interested in the S&P. The S&P, we sent a trade alert out earlier this week on the S&P, and we had a very successful result of that S&P trade alert. Any E-mini traders out there? What are E-mini? E-minis are trades and contracts based on 1 point movement of the S&P. Well, this software, and I know many E-mini traders out there, when they make 1 or 2 points, 3 points, they think they died and went to heaven. Well, this software specifically told us that in class, we said, look, this down move would not cross 2112. It would make a run towards 2112, and then because the daily was moving up, you want to buy a 4-hour slingshot, right? That's what the trade alert went in depth to point out to you. In class, I pointed down this down move would come down for find that battle zone, and then it's going to reverse before breaking 2112, and as soon as the 4-hour engages up, you should buy it. So what did the software do? What did the software do? My 4-hour came down as it went down to 21, and it went to a low of 2114. It reversed on a 4-hour slingshot, and then proceeded to go from 2114 up so far a high of 2130. That's 16 points. S&P minis die and go to heaven on 1 to 2 point. We consistently made a 20-point move here, 20-point move there, 20-plus point move there, and on the latest one another 16-point move here, over and over and over, simply by following the rules. And we painted that picture beautifully. In class, I went on to tell you, look for this to turn and engage over the next several hours. Look for it to find a battle zone before it engages. Notice it finds another resistance support here, form a resistance over here, support, support, support. So where did this come down and test before it engaged up? Battle zone, boom. It did it again, form a resistance up here. It comes down to test that battle zone right across there. Where does it engage up? Right there. Buy. And then buy again. So you've never seen anything like the software nor the class instruction, literally painting a picture of exactly what it's going to look like and where price is supposed to go and not go. And if it does these things, we simply follow the rules, and we make points constantly on S&P, on gold, etc., etc. So hopefully this does open your eyes to new possibilities. The Euro trade again, that's simple. It was a simple trigger. The time frame cycling, that was a no-brainer. And we talked about it in class as we were riding the Euro up hundreds and hundreds of pips. We said, look for this retracement to unfold. Same thing with gold. We were talking about this top and reversal when gold was pushing higher. We got the time frames overruled and riding down. We got a daily trigger. We entered. We got over a $16+ move on gold. And I've already banked massive profits here. Take profit 1 and 2 has already been banked. What does that look like? That looks like this. Here's the trades running right now, and here's the trades already closed. Winning trade after winning trade after winning trade. Why? Because we simply follow rules and we don't break them. So can the system fail? Yeah, if you don't follow the rules. If you follow the rules and do what we ask and recommend you do, and learn the process, you can't do anything but succeed. Because what's cool about this, even when I get an entry, the only way for it to reverse and go against me is by, guess what? None other than a slingshot. And that's why when I'm in a position, I have this right in front of me to tell me, uh-oh, I'm short on a trade, but I have a higher time frame or time frame engaging against that move, that tells me to take profits or maybe even close that trade. So it's virtually impossible to have a losing trade when you have following the line of progression. Can I say this system never failed? No. There's no system on earth that won't ever have a losing trade. But if you follow those rules, they're very far and few between, because again, tools are there to help you. And if I'm short based on a trigger, the only way price can reverse against me is by a slingshot engaging against me. And Lindell, isn't that important to know that a slingshot should engage and go higher when the higher time frames are pushing higher? So if I get a trigger knowing it's going to go higher, I'm simply going to quick scalp, get in and get out. When I see that slingshot engaging up as it's supposed to, I then go back long. But I know right in front of me and have warning signs the whole time I'm in a trade short, I'm in a trade long, and I get take profit triggers firing all over the place to tell you, hey, peel off some profit. And we use this take one profit 1, 2, and 3 because the number one goal of trading is to get to a break-even, breathe easy +1 trade, meaning my at-risk stop loss is now in profit and it's no longer at risk. So the proof is in the pudding. Join us because the system works, and you will be in awe and total amazement because of all the tools and how easy the system truly is by simply following a core group of instructions. And if that's not enough, I'm going to close it here. The trade management system has those rules built in. If I tell it to buy a trigger long, and I get the trigger long, but my time frame is not aligned. So I want to enter a trade and go long when my trend momentum is still pointing down. It'll tell you can't enter the trade because trend momentum and the PAI are headed lower. So it won't even let you enter a trade the wrong way. So you remember some people said, well, you know, I meant to buy this and I hit the sell button. Oh, bonehead mistake. Well, if I'm trying to buy with the system and the system is saying, no, you should be thinking selling, I buy, it'll say you can't buy this because the trend momentum and the PI are headed down. It'll physically tell you that and it won't even let you enter it. So all of those rules I talk about in class are automatically built into this trade management system. How cool is that? So one last time, how do I get a part of this trial period? I go to this link, www.gpatrading.com/GPA trial. And one last thing, as I mentioned, I didn't show you this, but we're proud of this as well, that I want to thank you for joining us. This software called the Market Price Anticipator software will empower you to read and anticipate price in any financial market on time, in time, all the time. And we're very proud of this next slide, which is on our home page, that it's a world map, and we have over 108 countries and counting. And if you're from a different country and your flag is not represented here, we welcome you to join us, and notice your flag will appear on our beautiful world map. But that'll tell you students have been with us for multiple years and returning year after year after year, continuing the service because it works. And we have a sampling from around the globe that have found this system to be second to none. So again, take care. Y'all have a great evening. Have a wonderful weekend. And for those of you that joined us, welcome aboard. For those of you that are mulling the situation over, remember, as the days pass, I'm missing out on big trading opportunities I could have participated in. So take care.